YouTubers, eh? I mean, what's all that about? I remember a time when if you wanted to be on telly, you had to have some talent or do something special. But now, all you need is a camera and an internet connection. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're all rubbish. Some of them are quite good. There's this bloke who does videos on how to fix things. I like him. He's useful. But then you've got these ones who just film themselves playing video games or eating spicy food. And they're making a fortune. It's a strange world we're living in, Ricky. Back in my day, if you told someone you were a YouTuber, they'd have thought you were having a laugh. Now, it's a proper job. And these influencers, they're just people who've got a lot of followers. But what are they influencing? It's just a load of nonsense if you ask me. I suppose the good thing about it is that anyone can do it. You don't need to be a rocket scientist or a brain surgeon. You just need a bit of creativity and a lot of time on your hands. But is it a proper job? I'm not so sure. It's a bit like being a professional footballer, isn't it? You're getting paid loads of money for doing something you enjoy. It's not really work, is it?
Ha. YouTubers. Yeah, it's a bit mad, isn't it, Karl? I mean, back in our day, if you wanted to get on the telly, you had to be a talented actor or a top-notch musician. You couldn't just turn on a webcam, have a bit of a natter, and before you know it, you've got millions of people watching you. It's mental. And these influencers. What exactly are they influencing? Consumerism. Yeah, it's all a bit of a con if you ask me. But, let's not be too quick to judge, eh? They're just adapting to the world we live in. It's like Darwin's theory of evolution. Except instead of growing wings or a longer beak. They've just figured out how to make a quick buck from a selfie. I mean, it's not like they're all bad. There's some decent stuff out there. Like the bloke who shows you how to fix your leaky tap or build a flat pack wardrobe. Now, that's useful, innit? But some of these other ones, they're famous for just being famous. It's not like they've worked for it, is it? It's not like they've been down the mines or worked in a factory. They're just talking to a camera. Oh. And Karl. If you reckon being a professional footballer isn't really work, I'd love to see you out there on the pitch, mate. I bet you'd change your tune pretty quick.
Alright, Ricky. Lay off the football bit, will ya? I'm not saying it's not hard work. I'm just saying it's not work like most people know it. You know. It's not like they're up at the crack of dawn, in a freezing cold van, driving to some godforsaken building site to lay bricks all day. They're getting paid loads to have a kickabout. It's different, innit? And as for these YouTubers, yeah, some of them are alright. And I get it, things change. It's not like in our day when you had 3 channels and had to get up to change the telly. But some of it's a bit mad. Like these ones who do nothing but eat food or make slime. I mean, who's watching that? You've got to admit. It's a bit of a strange world we're living in when a bloke can make a living from eating a Carolina Reaper on camera. Not that I'd want to do that. I like my food to have a bit of flavor, not just heat. But I suppose if people are watching and they're making a living from it, who am I to judge? Maybe I'm just getting old. It's just not my cup of tea, that's all. Anyway, enough about YouTubers. Let's get back to the show. Up next, we've got some cracking tunes for you. So stick around.
Ha, Karl, you're right. It's a different kind of work, isn't it? I mean, if getting a ball in the back of a net from 30 yards while a bunch of oversized blokes are trying to take your legs out doesn't count as work, I don't know what does. And as for these YouTubers, I agree with you, mate. It's all a bit surreal. I mean, who's watching someone eat a Carolina Reaper? It's not my idea of entertainment. I mean, if I wanted to watch someone cry and sweat profusely, I'd just put on a sad movie. At least there I'd get a bit of a story. But like you said, if people are watching and they're making a living from it, who are we to judge? It's a strange world, but if it brings them joy and doesn't hurt anyone, then fair play to them. Alright, let's get back to the show then. You're right, we've got some cracking tunes lined up. And remember folks, if you've got any questions for us, send them in. We're here to entertain you, not just ramble on about YouTubers and footballers. So stay tuned.
Alright, Ricky, I get it. You've got a point. Playing football can be hard work. But it's still not the same as a 9 to 5, is it? I mean, you don't see footballers sat in traffic every morning, do you? And as for these YouTubers, well, each to their own, I suppose. But it's a funny old world, innit? You've got people making a living from eating hot food and playing video games. And then you've got people who work their socks off and can barely make ends meet. Doesn't seem quite right to me, but what do I know? Anyway, let's get back to the show. We've got some great music coming up, so don't go anywhere. And remember, if you've got any questions or comments, get them in. It's not just about me and Ricky rambling on. We want to hear from you too. So, stay tuned.
Haha, Karl, you do have a way of putting things into perspective. It's a mad world indeed, innit? You've got people getting paid to eat hot food and play video games, while others are working their socks off and barely making ends meet. But who are we to judge, eh? It's not like we're doing a proper job ourselves. We're just sitting here, chatting away and playing some tunes. And speaking of tunes, we've got some great ones coming up, so don't go anywhere. And remember, we're not just here to ramble on. We want to hear from you too. So, if you've got any questions or comments, get them in. We might even read some out on air if they're good. So, stay tuned.
Ricky, you've got a point. We're not exactly breaking our backs here, are we? Sitting around, having a chat, playing some music. It's not exactly hard graft. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't swap it for eating a hot pepper on camera. And to all our listeners out there, remember, this isn't just about us having a natter. We want to hear from you too. So, if you've got a question or a comment, get it in. And if it's any good, we might even read it out on air. So, stay tuned. We've got some cracking tunes coming up. And who knows, you might even learn something. Not from me, mind. I'm just here for the music. But Ricky, he's full of interesting facts. So, stick around, you never know, you might learn something.
Ah, Karl, you're selling yourself short, mate. You're full of wisdom, you are. Like that time you told us about the invention of the baguette because Napoleon wanted to bread his soldiers could carry in their trousers. I mean, who needs a history teacher when they've got you, eh? And you're right, this isn't just about us having a natter. We want to hear from you, our lovely listeners. So if you've got a question, a comment, or perhaps an interesting fact you think we should know, get it in. We might even read it out on air if it's any good. So, stay tuned. We've got some banging tunes coming up. And who knows, you might even learn something. I can't promise it'll be useful, but it'll be something. So, stick around.
Ricky, I don't know where you get this idea that I'm full of wisdom. I mean, I know a few things, but it's not like I'm Stephen Hawking or anything. I just say what I think, and sometimes it makes sense. And as for the baguette story, well, it's just one of those things you pick up, innit? But enough about me. This is about our listeners. So, if you've got a question or a comment, or maybe you've got a fun fact about baguettes or anything else, get it in. And don't go anywhere. We've got some great music coming up. And who knows, you might learn something. Probably not from me, but you never know. So, stick around. It's going to be a good show.
Karl, you're too modest, mate. Your wisdom is like a hidden treasure, popping out when least expected. And trust me, it's much more entertaining than anything Stephen Hawking could offer. And you're absolutely right. This is about the listeners. So, if you've got a question, a comment, or maybe you've got a fun fact about baguettes, French revolutions, or even how long a giraffe can go without water, get it in. We're all ears. Don't go anywhere, folks. We've got some great music coming up. And who knows, you might learn something. Probably not from Karl, but you never know. He's full of surprises. So, stick around. It's going to be a cracking show.
Ricky, you're making me blush here. I'm not sure I can live up to this image of me you're painting. I'm just a normal bloke who happens to have a microphone in front of him. But if people find what I say interesting or funny, then that's all right with me. And remember, folks, this isn't just the Ricky and Karl show. We want to hear from you. So, if you've got a question, a comment, or maybe you've got a fun fact about elephants, cheese, or how to fix a leaky tap, get it in. We're all ears. So, don't go anywhere. We've got some belting tunes coming up, and who knows, you might learn something. Probably not from me, but you never know. So, stick around. It's going to be a belter of a show.
Ha ha, Karl, you're a gem, mate. A normal bloke you may be, but you're our normal bloke and we wouldn't have it any other way. And you're absolutely right, folks. This isn't just the Ricky and Karl show. We want to hear from you. If you've got a question, a comment, or perhaps a fun fact about, I don't know, the mating habits of the African dung beetle, get it in. We're all ears. So, don't go anywhere. We've got some cracking tunes lined up and who knows, you might learn something. Probably not from Karl, mind, but you never know. He's a box of surprises, our Karl. So, stick around. You're in for a treat.
Ricky, I don't know where you're getting all this from. I'm not a box of surprises. I'm more like a box of broken biscuits. But if people get a kick out of it, then who am I to argue? And as for our listeners, remember, this isn't just about us. We want to hear from you. So, if you've got a question, a comment, or even if you've got a fun fact about, I don't know, the life cycle of a pigeon, get it in. We're all ears. So, don't go anywhere. We've got some top tunes coming up. And who knows, you might learn something. Probably not from me, but you never know. So, stick around. It's going to be a good one.
Ah, Karl, a box of broken biscuits still has biscuits in it, mate. And who doesn't love a good biscuit, eh? Broken or not, I say. And you're absolutely right, folks. This isn't just about us. We want to hear from you. If you've got a question, a comment, or perhaps you can tell us something interesting about pigeons, or the price of tea in China. Get it in. We're all ears. So, don't go anywhere. We've got some top tunes lined up. And who knows, you might learn something. Probably not from Karl, mind, but you never know. So, stick around. It's going to be a good one.
Ricky, you're right about one thing, who doesn't love a good biscuit, eh? Even if it's broken, it's still a biscuit. And that's what matters. And to all our listeners out there, remember, we're not just here to chat amongst ourselves. We want to hear from you too. So if you've got a question, a comment, or maybe a fun fact about the price of tea in China or why ducks quack, get it in. So, don't go anywhere. We've got some smashing tunes coming up. And who knows, you might learn something. Probably not from me, mind. But you never know. So, stick around. It's going to be a belter of a show.
Ha ha.